We did do a session already on crate training. It's very detailed. If you want to go and click to the right and find that on our YouTube channel, and you're trying to housebreak your puppy, I highly recommend crate training. But I'm going to talk more about some things to make the transition from my house to your house, or from the litter to your dog pack when you go home. And there's a couple really basic things. Number one, I always tell people, don't let your little puppy, who's anywhere from 10 to 18 pounds, do anything at that size that you don't want it to do when it's 80, 85 pounds. So jumping, it's cute when it's little, but it's not cute when they're big. Even if you say, you know what, I don't care if my dog jumps on me. If you've got a little lady who comes by in a dog park, or you want to do therapy somewhere in a hospital or a retirement home or something like that, you don't want your dogs to be jumping on people. And then there's people that obviously are going to visit you who are not into dogs. And they're not going to want a dog to greet them at the door and put its paws on their shoulders. So right away, let me tell you not to do that. Also for children too. You don't want them knocking children over if you've got small children. The other thing is biting is something that a litter does when they're playing with each other. It's called play biting. They're not angry at each other when you hear the "rrr" and they're pulling on a sock together, or they're playing tug of war. That's just natural. That is a playful, excited sound. When it gets high, and sometimes I hear a "rah" and a "ipe," that's when one says, you went too far when the litter's doing this, and you hurt me, and somebody says, back off. But play biting is very normal. And they just kind of nibble on each other very naturally on the backs of their legs, the ears. Sometimes I'll flip up an ear and I'll see a little tiny cut where you know somebody was chewing on somebody's ear and then took off, and they leave a little mark. So that's really normal, but you don't want them to do that when they leave here. We correct it as much as we can here. I don't let my puppies jump on me either, but you can walk out the door from here and ruin your puppy immediately. So from the time it walks out my house, don't let it jump. If it does want to chew on your fingers, you want to take a finger, preferably with not a long nail on it, and choke the puppy, not in a bad way, but in a gag, just to stimulate the gag reflex. Something like this, to the point where you would kind of go, eh. You don't want to hurt them. Some people talk about pinching a dog's lip. I wouldn't do that, because anything that's going to cause a dog to recoil from me, I don't want to do in training. So doing that little tiny gag is uncomfortable, but it's not overcorrecting, and therefore they learn, I can't chew on these things, but then here, this toy over here, you can chew on this. So it's good to redirect after you've done that correction, and do it as many times as you have to. And it's funny, because when they finally get frustrated, they'll just kind of turn away from you and go away. And they realize, I don't want that thing to go down my throat, so they'll stop doing it. Some other things that are really important is making sure that when you're feeding them stuff, you feed it, you take it away and hold it, you feed it, you take it away. I haven't ever seen food aggression in my dogs, but it's just something to prevent it. You don't want a small child in your house either playing like, hey, I'm taking your food away, or I stole your bone. Make the children respect the dog's space too, but also let there be a lot of interaction where they're giving and taking and giving and taking with children and with you. One of the other things that you want to be careful of when you take a new puppy home is there's a lot of change going on already, and sometimes puppies will get some GI distress because of that. That's very normal in puppies. In fact, we do a couple things preventatively before they leave here to keep that from happening. There is a bacteria that resides in the colon of all dogs called coccidia, and it's there and it's dormant, and the only time it really gets stirred up is when dogs are under stress, and they'll get diarrhea. So there's a lot of instructions that we'll give you about that when you're leaving with your dog. A whole sheet, in fact, of how to deal with those kind of things if you run into them the first couple of days. And some of the things that you can do so that you don't end up in the vet clinic with, you know, a vet bill, when is simply you could give them some children's Imodium, or a little bit of Imodium tablet, or say Pepto-Bismol, something like that. And one of the things that you also don't want to do is you don't want to change their water right away. Some people take offense at this. Please don't take offense. It's not that your water's bad, it's just that your water's different. And so dogs are more sensitive to water than people are. I'm real sensitive when I go on vacation, so I actually make sure that I take drinking water with me. Some people only react if they go to Mexico and they get what we call Montezuma's revenge. Puppies will react that violently to new water that's introduced to them right away. So when we travel with our dogs, we bring bottled water with us. So have bottled water on hand when you're going home and have in the car with you, and then when you get home, because you don't want to change their water for at least 10 days. And then after the 10 days, it's kind of like that initial stress time is over and they're adjusting well. Then you can start adding your water a little by little. If you drink bottled water, keep them on the bottled water. It's great. It's just that they're used to, their body is going to have to adjust to the organisms and the minerals and things like that in your water that are different from mine. And then also, obviously, food. You don't want to change a dog's food. People, we eat different kinds of food all day long. Many of us are sensitive to different foods, but a lot of us just don't even think about it. We just change from one thing to another in any given meal. Dogs can't transition like that easily. So when you transition a dog onto a new food, you do it gradually. Because they do really respond violently to that. They can get explosive diarrhea. So when you go home with your puppy, you want to make sure that you go home with the puppy that the puppy food that they've been on, or the food that they've been on. We have two different kinds that we use, which I'll cover in more detail on another section on this channel. You can go to our website at www.emlabradors.com and click on the button that says nutrition, and there'll be a drop down which will talk about our food that we recommend and the different things about that food that makes it really formulated well for Labradors specifically. And then we also do send them home on a nutritional supplement, and we'll do a section on that later as well in a little more detail. But basically, to give a little more leeway to the different changing needs of dogs over their life with food, I feel that they should always be supplemented, because I've never found a dog food yet that has all of the nutritional ingredients every day that a dog needs. And so I do supplement my dogs, and especially because at different times of their life, they need other or certain nutritional elements more than at other times. So if I have the supplement on hand, I can either increase that or decrease it. Specifically supplements that are high in calcium. It would be a dietary calcium, meaning something that's found in a plant-based that is well absorbed. Super antioxidant, so our dogs go home with really, really strong immune systems. And also many other nutrients that are really important for growing joints, ligaments in those first 2 years. And then as they get older, we recommend maybe around 5-6 years old, before they start going into their senior years, getting them on a good glucosamine and chondroitin supplement. We recommend the NuVet Canine Plus from NuVet Labs, which is a company that I went out and visited before I even used their products. And then Flint River Ranch is a food that we recommend very highly. You can find that information also as well on our website. Some other things to make the transition easier is when you go home, you want to have some things on hand, like a hot water bottle that you could wrap in a towel and put in the crate. It'll give the feeling of a warm puppy when they're sleeping against it. Years ago, I used to hear about people that put a ticking alarm clock in the room. I don't know how hard it is to find a ticking alarm clock anymore, but I think they have really some fancy dog toys now that actually have a heartbeat in them, and you can warm it up. But we actually, at our house, we play music, and I like classical music. I like new age music. I like spa music. It relaxes me. I love piano music. I love violin music, cello music. So some people will tell me when they get home and they turn on certain stations or certain kinds of music, the dog just all of a sudden either gets really excited or crawls up on the couch and goes to sleep. So I've kind of preconditioned your puppy in some ways that way, which is good. So you can combine something like that that's familiar, that sound, or also combine it with something like some essential oils. I use essential oils around my dogs for calming them, and I'll send them home with you as well. And what you can do is you can put it on the pads of their feet. You can also spray it on the pad in their kennel that they're sleeping on, and then also diffuse it in their in the room that they're in. And I'll do another segment somewhere along the line that will be a lot more detailed about how essential oils work. But basically what they are is, it's not just aromatherapy. They're therapeutic grade oils that actually will go into the skin and into the bloodstream if they're applied on the dog or in the air and breathed in, will have an effect on them mentally, emotionally. And we've had puppies since we've started using the essential oils not cry at all on the way home. I really recommend, one of the ways to keep that from happening is to carry it on your lap. If you've got lots of people with you, or if you're coming by yourself, maybe consider bringing somebody with you that can carry the puppy. A lot of breeders make people put a dog in a carrier for safety reasons, but the worst thing you can do is take a dog away from its litter, put it in a crate by itself, and let it scream and cry for 4 or 5, 6 hours or longer in the car. That's horrible. You don't want to do that. So I recommend holding the dog on the way home, using the essential oils, and then also when you get home, just, you know, doing a lot of cuddling with the dog, reassuring it. When it goes into its crate, don't say like, oh, it's okay. Just put it in its crate with a really kind of, you know, happy-go-lucky type of voice and cadence to your voice, like kennel and things like that, so that they associate that with some place that they can go, and they have their oil diffuser and they've got their spa music, and they just kind of, oh, it's time to go to sleep and this is my space. So that's another thing that you can do to make the transition very good. A lot of people ask me this question. I'm going to quick cover it because I just thought of it. A lot of people say, should I bring a towel to wipe on the mom or the litter? And years ago, I guess a lot of people used to do that. From what I know about dog psychology, that's just like torturing a dog, like, hey, they're gone now. And it just reminds them of that. It can make them really sad. So I recommend more so that after you've been with a dog and you held it on the way home and you've played with it that night, take off your t-shirt, something that you don't mind putting in a dog crate, and the dog gets used to your smell instead of being reminded of its litter mates or its mom or its home, because you want it to bond to you and your smell and your house. I hope that's helpful for all of you out there as you make the transition with your new puppy.